Greetings and welcome to the Dr. J Vlog series. It's Sunday, April 26th, 2026, and today I'm doing a vlog under the sub-series Thoughts and Reflections. And I'd like to start today's vlog a little bit differently with a dedication. That's right, today's vlog is dedicated to the more than 10,000 students that I've had the privilege of teaching over the past 38 years in various U.S. and Canadian universities where I've been employed. From the University of Virginia, where I started part-time teaching, first in 1987, to James Madison the next year, where I started my full-time teaching career, so since 1988, and then eventually the University of Toronto and York University part-time in the 1990s, Trent University finally, as we ushered in the new millennium. So they were kind enough to give me a 3-year contract, so I taught there full-time for 3 years, and then finally at King's University College at Western, where I've been a professor of sociology and criminology since 2003. And it has been my great privilege then to have been a university professor for the past 38 years, including, as mentioned, the last 23 years just at King's. And no, this is not a retirement statement. I plan to stick around for a while, like Sundance at that card table. But beyond my own experiences, I'll merely ask then, are you or were you a university or a college student at some point? Ever enrolled in post-secondary education? Maybe not. But if so, this vlog I think will be especially relevant and hopefully interesting, even if you weren't. Maybe you'll find it interesting. So in a nutshell, I'm going to share my thoughts on how I approach assigning marks to my students these days. Today you're going to get an inside look then at what I'm thinking and how I approach marking exams and term papers. And if you like the content, as always, if you want to support the channel and what we're doing here with the Dr. J Vlog series, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells, and perhaps share the vlog with or recruit 1 or 2 more people to subscribe as well. We'll build the channel. Okay, so after 38 years. Here's what I'd like to share with you. Obviously, I'm only speaking for myself. I'm sharing my own perspective, my own personal experiences as a university professor, right? So I don't know how many other profs or what percentage would share my views. So let me state first and most importantly, I don't really like marking papers and exams, at least in terms of the whole assigning grades aspect. I'd rather just be able to give constructive feedback to help students along. But all the university that I've ever taught at require that we assign grades. And since I sort of have to be the student's metaphorical boss, then here's my next point. No matter who the students might be, and whether they, like me or not, or, whatever their attitudes, I genuinely want them to succeed. And I'm going to elaborate on what I mean by that with the rest of this vlog then. Okay, so it actually starts on my end, though, in terms of my efforts to try to help set them up for success. And maybe I don't always do a great job in that regard. So the bottom line is I try to model as best I can what I think the students will need to do to be successful, how to approach studying in university life, or their lives in general, if you will. So for example, I try to show up prepared, and I try to teach the materials to the best of my ability. Again, that's where I'm not always going to be perfect either, just like the students, right? I'll make mistakes, I don't always have a great day and so on. But anyway, the point is I'm going to try to do my best. And since day one, for example, I've always worn a coat and tie to class, mainly just as a sign of respect to the students, to show them that I care. I mean, if you were going on a first date, or if you were getting to your first day on the job, right, you'd dress up or you'd dress appropriately, right? You'd shower, you'd wear nice clothes, and you'd try to put your best foot forward. And so I just decided from the outset that I'd always do that for my students as well. And so the dress codes of professors and students alike have slackened considerably, shall we say, over the years. But it's still something that I take quite seriously. I just want my students to know that, at least for the time that we're in class there together each week, that I've prepared, that I respect them, that I've dressed up for them, and that I'm going to try to do the best that I can. Okay? And I'll talk more about my teaching strategies and styles another day, but for now, I just want to skip ahead to the key issue then of marking final exams and term papers. Okay, since I literally just finished that today, my last set. So I'm done for this semester, for this academic year. Anyway, it's quite simple, really. After spending a whole semester together, we've established, hopefully, a reasonably healthy relationship. Again, everyone has their personality quirks, and I'm not going to pretend that everyone loves being in my class or my particular teaching style. But regardless, I want them to succeed, again, for several reasons. So that's how I approach marking. I start with the hope that every student whose work I'm evaluating will get a good mark, or even ideally a perfect mark. Now, perfect is almost impossible, as I'll explain in a follow-up vlog. But I start there. That's always my hope. The best analogy that I've been able to come up with is I think of myself as kind of like a basketball coach, and I've got all these players on my team. And some are superstars, some are really great players, really solid players, and there's others at the end of the bench who are not the greatest players, if I'm being honest, right? And some players practice more and work harder than others too. That's the reality of life. It's not meant to be a criticism. It's just objectively true. But here's the thing. When I do put you into the game, to extend the analogy, what I'm hoping for you and for the team, what am I hoping for specifically in terms of your performance? I want you to do well. If you're on my team and you're in the game, I want you to make every single shot, for example. That would be fantastic. Even if you've never been the best shooter, especially if you've never been the best shooter, it'd be awesome if you made every shot and you had a great game. In fact, it would be the ultimate delight, in my view, if every player walked off the court having just played their best game ever. No one missed a shot. No one made a bad play. No one ever grows old on Magic Mountain. Sorry, Father John Misty reference there. But alas, statistically, that's just not the reality. Right? It doesn't work that way. But as I'm marking, I'm truly rooting for my players, aka my students. I want them to get every answer right. Okay, now do you understand the analogy? If it's an objective section with multiple choice and true-false questions, I mark them page by page as I go through. And most times, I'm not kidding, each time I do a page and a student gets every answer right on that particular page, I'll actually think to myself and often blurt out under my breath, or quietly to myself, something like, yeah, or, good job, or, let's go. Or I just smile, involuntarily. I'm literally happy to see them succeed. So if I'm marking, one of the great joys I get is watching, marking and watching them succeed. And if they do great, I feel great for them. That's just normal, I think, human empathy. And, if I've marked a full paper or a full exam and the person has done really well, they've gotten, say, an A+, a really great mark, I mean, how can you help but not be excited for them and genuinely happy for them? And I always sort of imagine, or love to imagine, their reaction to getting the good news. And I can't tell you how many times I wish I could just call or email the person right away to tell them. But that's not how it works, right? So we mark everything, and then we return the stuff at the next class or post the results online, etc., right? So we have to wait. Everyone's supposed to get their feedback at the same time, right? I just want to reiterate, though, that I love seeing the great marks, and I want to see as many of them as possible. I want my students to make every shot, okay? Conversely, in my nearly 4 decades of university teaching, you can appreciate that not everyone's going to succeed, or not everyone's going to do well every time out. And if I'm marking a paper or an exam and the student's not doing well, I feel for them too. Regardless of whether they've prepared or not, whether they're normally a great student or not, it's still no fun, at least for me and probably for the student, if they don't do well, right? I hope that's a normal human reaction too. So, I mean, if I were someone's boss, I'd hate to have to fire them for incompetence or screwing up or for not showing up, to work regularly. I'd certainly try to understand, have a talk with them, have some empathy. But the bottom line is sometimes people do screw up, right? And sometimes they, for that matter, they just don't care. Not that many, I don't think, at least not in my experience, don't care, but some don't. But I still don't relish the thought of failing them. That doesn't make me feel good or happy, And if I know them better and I know they've been struggling for some reason, well, it's even worse. In some ways, I really do feel badly for those who are committed and who are working really hard, but they just aren't able to succeed for whatever reason. Okay. Yeah, sometimes that player, is going to miss every shot, or they're going to have a terrible game. Again, back to the analogy, and I'm going to have to put them on the bench, so to speak. If that happens, all I can then do is try to help them figure out what happened, what went wrong, why they're not doing well. And then to the extent that I can, try to help them work out their problems and get back in the game. And yeah, that extends then to just trying to help the students then be better or to improve upon their ability to think and their ability to write effectively and communicate effectively in whatever the particular format. And so that's obviously my job as their professor, or at least part of my job, big part of my job. But at the same time, of course, they have to want to get better. They have to want to succeed. If they choose not to come, if they've done poorly and they choose not to come to ask for my help or to get help elsewhere at the university, then there's not a lot that I can actually do. But even then, at the very least, I'll try to get back in the classroom and get them a little bit more excited about the prospects of learning. Again, hopefully motivate them to want to do better. But again, at some point, there's only so much we can do. And then there's another quite selfish reason why I love seeing my students do well on their papers, on their exams, etc. And if you've ever been a teacher at any level, you'll appreciate what I'm about to say. It just makes my job so much easier if people do well. Marking a great paper exam is almost effortless. It just flows. It takes very little time to mark excellence. Check, great job, excellent. But it's and then of course at the same time, I know they're going to be happy. So it's really a win-win situation. And once more, if someone doesn't do well, that means selfishly, it's a lot more work on my end too, right? Having to point out mistakes, having to explain flaws in their reasoning, why they missed their marks in certain respects, etc. And then the most difficult thing I have to do outside of reading some people's handwriting, including my own, which is terrible, it's having to read sentences that don't make any sense, or if the writing and the logic is somehow deeply flawed. Again, to use another analogy, I sometimes feel like the doctor coming in, goes in to tell the patient after the test reveals that they have cancer. I mean, who could possibly enjoy doing that? But metaphorically, sometimes that's kind of what happens. I don't want my students to have cancer. I don't want them to be unhealthy physically or mentally or intellectually. You get the point, right? And finally, let's be honest. I also want every student to succeed, because if they succeed, then not only do I succeed, but we all succeed. The university produces successful graduates, and that helps our reputation, and we're more successful. And perhaps most importantly of all, and this comes from my heart, I genuinely want every student, no matter what their marks, to make a mark in this world. Okay? And that's really the final point, the key of all of this. I want them to find their voices, develop their special talents, to use their degrees and their education and their knowledge, etc., to positive effect. I want them to be happy and healthy and lead wonderful lives, inspired lives, both personally and professionally. So yeah, that's what I'm actually thinking when I mark the exams and the papers. I'm hoping that each student does well, and that somehow, through our limited time together, through my classes, and hopefully through many other classes and their many other contacts and experiences, that they, somehow feel incredibly encouraged and inspired and want to keep learning and thinking and developing and creating, whatever their particular talents and abilities might be. Okay, so I'll stop there. As ever, until next time, may you and yours continue to create peace in your lives, nurture love in your hearts, and dole out hugs in abundance. And congratulations to all my students, past and present and future. And we'll keep working at this together. Peace.